What's up, YouTube? I'm back. Today we are doing what I like to do most, which is, that's right, OCs. We're doing original characters today, and I'm going to be doing 28 Gates, the main character from 28 Gates, which is a original character that I of course created myself for, so I want to be an original character. So let's hop right into it. Okay, so what I'm doing here is just laying down some base colors. I'm not really sure what my colors are going to be off before going into this, so as you'll see, I'll just be going with the flow, picking and choosing colors, just trying things out, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't, before I move on to the next step, which is like shading and adding highlights and things like that. But you really want to make sure you get those base colors down right, because you don't want to change your mind halfway to the painting. If it doesn't look good, then you'll have to change it. So what you'll see me do here is go back and forth, trying to pick and choose what color goes where. Should he wear a dark shirt with a light vest, or a light vest with a dark shirt? So I'm just going back and forth from there, seeing what looks better. In the end, I decided to go with the dark shirt and the light vest, just because it'll give me a better color variety of colors once I start doing the background and things like that. So I really thought the lighter vest, I really thought the lighter vest stood out more compared to what was going to be going on in the background. So I chose with that. And I jumped a little bit too far ahead. I'm working on details, which is something you shouldn't usually do early on in your drawing, your painting, just because if you change something about the image, you would have to change the details too. Another thing I do when I am designing as I go is you recognize that some things are off, like his nose on this part. But yeah, that's another reason you don't particularly work on details early. Now I'm just looking for some good lighting, some good coloring to put in the background that complements the foreground. Here I'm just trying to get the background colors for the arms in there, something not too bright, but not too dark. That way you can definitely see the hands coming out of the background. And again, I'm just adding more colors to the foreground. What's going to be lit, what's not going to be lit, what can be seen. Just adding some atmospheric aberration. Just trying to get the contrast right. And then something that I didn't always do, which is what I'm doing on here now, is when I do my shadows and highlights, I tend to do them on brand new layers. Because for my shadows, I simply use a multiply layer. If I'm doing hard shadows, I'll just use a multiply layer and take a hard brush and then just make a shape out of that hard brush. I tend not to use the lasso tool just because you get jagged edges sometimes with your lasso tool, so I tend to just use a straight up 100% opacity hard brush and then just make the shape out of the brush to get that hard shadow. I use like a 30% gray. You can use darker or lighter if you want to, but depending, for the cast shadows I tend to use like a 30 to 40% gray on multiply, and I just put it on a brand new layer. And if you want, you can even use the multiply option for the brush on the multiply layer to get a really dark shadow in like around the neck area, under the nose, if you want to have levels of contrast in that shadow. As you can see now, I have used that multiply technique on the eyes, the shadow leading from his forehead, the shadow meeting his eyes on both sides of his forehead. And what I did to give it that soft feel is what I just erased with a softer brush to the edge, but that way it's still a hard shadow, but you can tell that it's light coming from somewhere. Also did it with the sides of the faces, the multiple layer, and I'm also doing it right now on the hands just to easily create those shadows without having to do a lot of brush work. Also, one thing I wanted to share with y'all, one thing that kept me from progressing, faster as far as like, digital art is don't be afraid to use multiple tools. You don't have to use just the brush tool. You can use, effects. You can use pretty much all of Photoshop to help make your image. As long as you're using it effectively, you can get some of the same results. Granted, back in the day it was frowned upon to do stuff like that, but it's not. Use Photoshop to full capacity. That way you can get your images done a lot quicker. I think that's something that I should have adopted early on in my art career. I think trying to be a traditional artist in a digital format isn't conducive to getting your art done. And now we were adding some highlights, but now we're adding some highlights, some light sources to the image. Since we've done all the groundwork as far as like shape and things of that nature, it's a lot easier to put in light and multiply layers to give us those cast shadows and that lighting that we're looking for. Now that we have pretty much the main body of the image done, it's a lot easier usually it's a lot easier to go from dark to light, but it's also a lot easier to go from flat to both than it is to try to repaint over it. So use those multiply layers, use those screen layers, use those color dodge tools, use whatever is going to get you the results you're looking to get. And here I'm just copying layers of eyes and then just using the smudge tool to give it like a ghostly effect. I'm also using the smudge tool for the smoke on the hand, giving it a ghostly feel. And what they're doing is it's spirits and demons reaching out, trying to latch on to our centerpiece here, which is a main character for 28 Gates. And what they're doing is just reaching out from the beyond, trying to latch themselves onto him as he's trying to escape hell. wrapped up our first video of me actually doing the OC character here. If you like this video, like, subscribe, drop some comments below, and I'll see y'all next week.